Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. My name is Leon Jones, right here on YouTube. Now, normally I don't do videos on Sundays, but it is the political season, and I want to keep people engaged because what I saw yesterday was highly despicable. So I'm going to title this video Plagiarism and Desperation. Plagiarism and Desperation. Now, and this is about Kamala Harris. I'm going to get in on this. Been going around and I've been listening to what she speaks. Now, she's kind of become a flip flop because she has no economic policies. And what was highly disturbing is this, and you Trump supporters, I'm a Trump supporter myself. Don't let it get to you. We need more people out here who are going to get on YouTube who are very knowledgeable of the issues. Now, we have a lot of sheep out here. Now, Kamala Harris had her rallies or her rally yesterday in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, Las Vegas is highly liberal. And I want people to understand this. She's not going to come to my state of Indiana because this is a red state. Shout out to Anton Daniels. They checked her up there in Detroit. See, the race this year, it is going to go through the Midwest. Now, here are the people who are detriment voters. Middle-aged, suburban, and young white women. These individuals have been filled with feminism. They're indoctrinated. Old blacks, a number of black women. And when I say old blacks, I'm talking about early Gen Xers on back. Now, thank goodness I wasn't raised with the indoctrination. I think for myself because I know what's going on out here. You have to write all these people up. Now, where do all these people reside? Oh yeah, I forgot. Before I get into where people reside, let's talk about you have the baby boomers. And then you have some, because my mom and dad are still living, you have some silent generation people who are living. Now, these people, all of them, whether you're white, whether you're black, if you vote for Kamala Harris, you're voting for communism, Marxism. She has no record. And for black people, and I've been reading this, she put a number of black men in jail even for having a couple of joints. But I'm going to tell you something. Number you blacks, number you young liberal white women, middle-aged white women who live in your suburban areas, you're going to vote for her. Now, the reason why they're all voting for her, they don't have any breast of the issues, is because they don't like Trump. The bottom line is you have a number of people out here, and I'm out here every day. And yeah, you conservatives out there, and shout out to Chaotic Truth for saying this too. You got to get out there and get engaged. I mean, I live here in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, and I don't see anybody out there who's so-called conservative. And I think some of you hide under the idea that you're really conservative. A number of you are saying you're conservative. I don't believe that myself. Some of you might be rhinos out there because if you are you truly want your candidate to get in office, you'd be out there doing something. Now, this is an emergency YouTube video that I'm doing because I want to get everything out there. I want to tell you where Kamala Harris is going. She's going to all of your major cities. Why? Because she's not going to get anybody in the rural areas. So she's going to Vegas. She went to Phoenix, Arizona. There's a pattern here because the population is the area that has most of the Democratic people. Now, one must understand that Here in the United States, everything is done off an electoral college. You need 270 electoral college votes to win. So just because you win the popular vote, it does not mean you win the electoral vote. Because I do believe in this election, she's going to become even more desperate. Now, they agreed to 3 debates, but she doesn't want to come on Fox. Now, the moderators on Fox News, they were going to be, they're lightweight, Martha McCallum and Brett Baird. You're not getting into the Laura Ingrams, and you're not getting into the Jesse Waters, Greg Gutfields. You're not getting into any Judge Janine Pirrells. Now, if they were moderating Kamala Harris, I'd see her. It'd be like her sitting up there on that. If you're at a carnival, she's sitting up there. There's water down below, and all you got to do is throw the ball, hit the bullseye, and she's dunked. They would sing her. But with all that, keep your eyes open. She's going to plagiarize. And me, when I was in college, plagiarism was against the honesty code or the honor code. What the bottom line is, you got a lot of sheep out there voting on, they want to see the first instead of their own country. That's abysmal. To me, this is what the education system and what parenting has done to a lot of our children and even so many older people. And like I said, here in the Black community, old Gen Xers, I'm glad I don't fall into those old Gen Xers. Then you got most of your baby boomers. And then you have some, while they're still living now, your silent generation people. They're all going to vote Democrat. These are the individuals, and I'm going to give Minister Jeff his respect for this because he is right. These are the individuals that were comfortable, but I'm gonna put my own phraseology into it. These are ones that are comfortable with going to church every Sunday, faking a funk. They have decent jobs. They took up all the pensions. And bottom line, they're just comfortable. They had no vision, no innovation. And when you do ask them about building a business, the reason why they shut on that because they never did it. They never had it in them to do it. They don't have any fight in them. These individuals are losers. Now, I realize everybody cannot have a business, but these are the ones who fought for all that integration just to get jobs from white people. I'm talking about some of these Black people. A lot of these individuals, most of them live in the urban areas. But what's happening now, if you really look at what's going on, some jobs aren't hiring. Yeah, you have a lot of retail jobs out here. You have a lot of hospitality jobs. These are jobs that really don't pay a lot of money. Now you have the migrants coming over here. And what these migrants are going to do, they're going to take away some of those jobs that Black people used to work. But see, what some of the migrants are going to do, and believe you me, everybody is saying that they're all coming from Mexico. No, they're coming from all over. They're even coming in from Canada. And some of them are bringing their own money to start their own business. You see, I hear a lot of people, particularly here on YouTube, talk about Black community when there is no community. Community is something that's functioning. A number of us don't even live in the hood. I don't live in the hood. Did I live in the hood? Yeah, but I'm not going back there because there's no real functioning business in the hood. And I'm not talking about chicken shacks and liquor stores and churches and barber shops and beauty salons. I'm talking about banks, engineering firms. So you might have some doctors' offices, but I'm talking about law firms. I'm talking about a place where goods are manufactured and distributed by African American people. Some of those jobs. Talk about a good education system. Talk about good media. Because even all the black media out here, that's owned by a white corporation like iHeartRadio. But a lot of people don't look at that because they're not really voting based on issues of economics, foreign policy. Uh, to me, Kamala Harris said Trump didn't do anything about the border, which he did build that wall. She didn't do anything about that border. And if you want to know something, a big lie that she's telling, she's she's saying she wasn't the border czar. Look at House Resolution 253 and then type in. You all have Google, type it in. It's going to tell you she was appointed to be the border czar. She hasn't really gone down to the border. In fact, there were clips of her saying, haven't even been to Italy. Well, bottom line, she's been vice president for 4 years. Now, the thing that's going on right now, she hasn't had a single primary. All those votes, the 14 million votes, they all went to Joe Biden. And, something suspicious about that, too. Okay, he's sitting in Delaware, but now he's going out to campaign with his vice president, and I call him Napoleon Tim Walz. Well, if he can go out and campaign with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, well, why doesn't he be a real man and jump back in there and be an incumbent and go forward with the debates? See, what's happening is the Democrats, what they're doing, they're throwing so much shit against the wall. They're going to see what sticks. Now, the only way it's going to stick is you have to turn to the ignorant people to make it stick. I mean, I've heard video after video after video after video. Well, if you're a black man, you're trash if you don't stay on a plantation to vote Democrat. I've heard it from a number of black women. Well, these, make no mistake, these are all your poor people. These are all your ones who will always, they're going to be trapped in the hood forever, or they're going to be trapped in their economic situation forever. They have no skills. Even if they go to college, they learn from a professor. And by the way, let me beat up on this degree. When you go and get a college degree, I don't even care if it's in engineering. You're only regurgitating what the professor actually tells you to do. That's it. Because even me, when I went to school for civil engineering, there's a lot about civil engineering that I had to learn on my own. I didn't learn it in college. College is a minimal requirement for you to get the job. If you have some skills, you have some innovation, I'm just going to say in this here in 2024, start your own business. But fell off topic for a little bit. Let me get right back on topic. Bottom line is watch for the plagiarism. Kamala Harris is taking Trump's policies. And here's what she's going to try to do. She's going to try to flip it around and make it like it was her idea when we all know it wasn't her idea. Now, this is what I urge some conservatives to do. Byron Donaldson did it. Start going on those liberal shows and confronting them. Because see, these liberals, they're not going to come into the mouth of the MAGA crowd or the conservative crowd because they're scared. The conservatives, the Republicans, you got to go on their television shows. you got to put them in their place. I mean, the Joy Reids, that they wouldn't even, my channel was small, they wouldn't even come here. Kamala Harris wouldn't even come on my channel. And in fact, there was a video out there that somebody put out, and as stupid as it sounds, it it is relevant. She's talking about being black. Well, bottom line is she's biracial, just like Obama was. It's just Obama looked more black because he actually had a black father who was absolutely socialist and communist himself. And her father, which he's light skinned, we don't really know what he had in him. But what Kamala Harris is doing is what a number of Democrats do. Hillary Clinton tried that shit. When she was on Charlemagne the God show and bought a bottle of hot sauce, and he didn't check her. See, if she bought a bottle of hot sauce on my show, I said, well, you think we all eat hot sauce? I said, that's not going to appeal to me. I can make you a bucket of fried chicken right now. That's not all black. White people eat fried chicken. White people eat watermelon. See, here's what these Democrats are doing. They're basing everything off of stereotypes. In fact, when Kamala Harris had Meg the Stallion out, all she was doing was throwing in our face like we're nothing but a bunch of watermelon eating, fried chicken eating, lazy individuals, and all we want to do is sit around and make babies all day, twerking all day, listening to rap music. Think about that. She's using stereotypes. Well, she's going to go down to a rally in Atlanta and talk like she's black. Hillary did that, going down there talking Southern, like she's a hick. Phony. And you guys got to see through that. And the desperation is here. Now, I'm putting all this together because there are individuals out there. And I'm just going to tell you something about the polls. Don't believe the polls. In fact, I went up there and looked at the polls, and the only one that's really polling right now is Rasmussen or Rasmussen. The other ones aren't polling yet. They haven't polled in a couple of weeks. Why? Because there's probably something that's going to drop down there about Walsh. I don't know. And then with this stuff going on over in Israel, the individuals polling, they don't want to touch that. See, they're trying to manipulate the public by making it look like Kamala Harris is leading. The honeymoon is basically over. She does not want to debate on Fox. And then something also tells me the plagiarism, the tips. But she wants a $20 minimum wage now. So you want a $20 minimum wage, but you also say no tax on tips. Next, she's going to come out with no tax on seniors. Well, when she comes out with that, if you are listening to Trump, that's what he said. That was his economic policy. She's probably going to come out with, oh, well, we're going to build the extra wall. She's not going to do that either. It's going to be like Nancy Pelosi. When they went back, didn't get any Republican support back in 2010, 2012 on his health care bill. Kamala Harris will not answer any questions. Now, tomorrow, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they're going to have this is big boy talk. They're going to have a talk about the issues tomorrow. And hopefully I get to tune in on that. But the bottom line is, I'm trying to let you guys know that even her rallies, I believe there are people that are being bussed in because they're paid to go to her rallies. Because people walked out of her rally But just because people walked out of a rally, you know why they walked out of a rally? See, when you got to pay people to come to your rallies, and you can also generate a lot of crowd through AI, which means she could be sitting back there with nobody. But on television, AI can generate a crowd for her. This is what she can do. And what she's doing is, again, plagiarism and desperation. And I should also put deception. She's using the media to deceive people. And when you don't pay attention, you get caught up. And the reason why I'm doing these videos, because they go right back to my scam series. What they do with scams, they deceive people to get them to react. And one of the reasons why Kamala didn't want to have that debate on the 5th is because mail-in or early voting starts on the 6th. So she wants to start late after people mail in their votes. That way, after the debate, voters who already voted, particularly voted for her, and they saw her in the debate, and they listened to the policies, listen to the policies of one candidate. She has no policies. This woman is left of linen. This is why, again, this is why I don't want women in power. Most women are socialists. Most women believe in government. And if you don't believe me, I work for the city of Indianapolis. Most of the employees are women. So we're talking about DEI here. A lot of white women have benefited from DEI or affirmative action. If you look at all of your advisors in your colleges, most of them are women. They don't know shit about engineering, but they are DEIs. We can say that too. Now, again, with Joe Biden, he told everybody he was going to pick a black person to be vice president. So it was already indicating that he was going to pick somebody based on race. And let me tell you what the Democrats are really voting on. They're not voting on any policies. They're voting against Trump, because a vote for her is a vote against Trump because they don't like Trump. They're voting based on gender, and they're voting based on race. That's what they're voting for. If you ask any of them about an inflation, or do you know what inflation is? What should inflation be? Inflation should be, because when it comes to inflation, I'm going to say this. You can't have an economy that's flat. Why? Because then you're going to go into deflation. So inflation, you want to have a number, maybe 1.5. You're going to have some inflation. You see, the market works based on companies, who's buying and who's selling. And when you have two quarters that stocks are down, market's down, then you have a recession. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you all. And I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, start going to town hall meetings. In fact, I know this week there's somebody coming down to the city building where I work. And you best believe if he does come down, I'm engaged and I'm gonna ask questions. Most people aren't asking questions. And let me tell you, you have to know what your values are. Now again, Kamala, you hear the younger, and it's funny when you hear some of these dumb white women come out there, they're talking about abortion. Some of them don't even have kids. A woman's right to choose. First of all, that abortion, that's already in the states. If your state doesn't have it, move to a state that does have it. First of all, you wouldn't have to You wouldn't have to do that if you and your partner are responsible with sex. You wouldn't have to think about that. But a number of you say you believe in the abortion, but in many of you want a free check with the kid. You don't care about the kid. You want a free check. That's why I said some of you who are foster parents, you want a check. You want government subsidy. You got to stop lying. And that's what Harris is about. Again, people look at her, and I'm not to say all blacks, believe it or not, but most of your blacks who are like your Cornell West, your Michael Eric Dysons, your Van Joneses, your Joy Reeds, your your Jasmine Crockett's, and I am I am so happy that a number of member of the squad, she's out of that one from Missouri. I can't remember her name right off top, but she was the one that really was calling for defunding the police, but hired her own security off of our dime. That's crazy. And then you look at the black chick out in Dalton, Illinois. She's being investigated. And you know who's on that investigation committee? Lori Lightfoot, the one who was the mayor of Chicago. That's odd because Mayor Emanuel, he couldn't do anything with Chicago. She couldn't do anything with Chicago. And this nut up there, Johnson, he can't do anything in Chicago. You know how he got in? He was black. That's the problem. Again, a vote for Kamala is basically a vote because a lot of individuals who can't use their own mind, they've been deceived by the media that Trump is bad, so they're gonna vote for her. The abortion, things that I don't care about, race, gender, and government. You got a bunch of lazy people on the left. Now I'm not saying all Democrats, but I'm talking about left. And you got a lot, and believe you me, there are individuals just because you have an R on your sleeve, oh, they believe in Kamala too. Yes, indeed, because they know that if Trump gets back in, now I don't agree with everything he does, but I do believe he's better for the country. I mean, $1.87 for gas. I want a gas powered car or a hybrid. I don't want an electric car. They're too expensive right now. I don't want 70 to 80 to 90% of my money being redistributed to people who don't work. I want to be able to have a business. I want to be able to use the tax laws. I want to have border security because people, again, they're thinking that everybody coming over here is Mexican. No, you got people coming from a lot of other countries. And what's going to happen is you got all your sleeper cells here in this country, and they could be planning something. And here's what Kamala did too. She really didn't use her own mind. I know she's being told to do everything as well. Obama's probably telling her. See, remember, Kamala Harris isn't Obama. And my opinion, the reason why Obama won is because, I'll be clear, the Republicans really had nobody running, in my opinion, who was great. I mean, Romney certainly wasn't great. In fact, here's what happens when you have a policy that's the same as an incumbent's policy or the same as the person you're running against. You don't get elected. See, where Romney messed up is Romney was the governor of Massachusetts and he had Romney Care. Well, guess what? Romney Care was the same as Obamacare. So, as a voter, I'm going to say, well, wait a minute. This is the same This it's no different. So I'm gonna stick with the incumbent right here, and that's what they did. And then McCain was senile then. Now, I'm not criticizing the late John McCain. Yes, I know he was a prisoner of war, but he was a lousy politician, in my opinion. He was lousy. He didn't have it. He tried to be the maverick. He was a rhino. He didn't have it. He wasn't sharp. And when it comes to running anything, see, Trump isn't a politician. So what Trump has got to do, he's got to utilize J.D. Vance some more. And if you want to kill all the race talk, send that Michaela Montgomery out there. Put her on the campaign trail. She'll shut that stuff down in a heartbeat. Put Tulsi Gabbard out there. She will shut. I mean, she shut down Kamala Harris, and she couldn't get any. It's funny, she couldn't get any votes from her own state in the primaries running in 2020, and now she's vice president. And it's not that she's not a woman. And I'm going to tell you what else she's doing. She's even trying to steal Hillary's style of dress, the pantsuits. That's Hillary. So basically, she's trying to mock Hillary's dress style and steal some of Trump's talking points. She's getting desperate. And believe it, let's go back to the polls. We'll see on Monday. And shout out to Barry Cunningham because he gets good information. Shout out to ABL too. Shout out to Brandon Tatum. These guys get good information. I look at it. Shout out to Minister Japp. He gets it as well. But you got too many people out here. They're not paying attention. They're voting because they want to see the first. Look, I don't care if you're the first. I don't care if you're the last. I want policies. I don't want, I mean, rent's too damn high right now. Jobs, believe it or not, they aren't easy to get. You might think, well, okay, yeah, there are a lot of openings. You look at the economy, it's right now, it's probably got about a 4.3%. Now, I can always take the number and switch it around and say, okay, it could be 95.7. Where the jobs happening? Okay, what about dealing with, that's another thing. We could be on the verge of World War III. I mean, how is Kamala Harris going to deal with Kim with that nut Kim Jong Il? Going to deal with that nut. How's she going to deal with Putin? How's she going to deal with the individuals from the Mideast? How's she going to, Kim Jong Il, that's his name. How's she going to deal with that guy? Heck, you already, if America hasn't seen what took place over in Venezuela, maybe you need to look at it. I mean, they're fighting over there over that election when Maduro certainly lost, but the socialists and communists tried to cheat their way. And look at England. They don't have anything to defend themselves either. In fact, you had somebody that was arrested for posting something on Facebook or Twitter. I don't want that kind of country. I don't want communism on the left or fascism on the right. It doesn't work at all. But apparently, if you want to get individuals out of power and they've been in there too long, you got to get a candidate. You got to primary. You got to primary. That's the only way you can do it. Now, see, Kamala Harris is lucky. See, remember, she doesn't want to take the fall, but she's still on, because if Biden's out there campaigning with Kamala Harris, well, I'm going to say, well, hey, she's still on the ticket. She is still the vice president during this administration. She is still vice president. So she is responsible for what goes on. She is president of the Senate. So if she has a vote and the Senate takes a vote, there's a tie. She breaks the tie. I mean, there are policies out there, but do they have to be bad policies? No, you need good policy. And in politics, you have to be able to negotiate. This is why I don't want extremists running this country. I do not want extremists running this country. And that's on both sides. I want to be able to negotiate. Now, I know something everybody needs to know. Don't let these celebrities who have all the money influence your vote. Yes, they live here, but you don't want them influencing your vote. The bottom line is you have to be your own independent thinker. And don't let brothers, don't let these sisters influence you to go vote for Kamala Harris. Don't do it. If they use that piece of that funky stuff that you stick it in, and then you use her as a human toilet, you know what I'm saying? I'll put it better this way: that you want to nut in, don't do it. Don't do it. That's old. That's old. You got to use your own mind because they're using their own minds. Don't follow it. Don't follow your mothers. Don't follow your sisters. Don't follow any of them. Don't follow these white liberal women out here. Because, see, it's funny. Black women are just the soldiers for the white liberal women. Because I've been hearing a lot of dumb white liberal women out here, young and older. They have no concept of the rules. But because, the white woman out here is the originator of the affirmative action in the DEI. They are. But they're using your black women. And I'm basically talking about the ones who are city and suburban. These are the individuals that don't like men, they're feminists, and even individuals in the alphabet community. Don't let, if you are one who's in the alphabet community and you don't see Kamala Harris's, because she doesn't have any policies. Right now, she's running on hope, she's running on feelings, she's running on something magical, she's running on everything she's talking is fluff. She doesn't know what she's talking about half the time. And the reason why she won't get up and have a press conference is because she can't do it. She has to use a teleprompter. Obama used a teleprompter. Joe Biden used a teleprompter. Napoleon Tim, they're all using teleprompters. They're not coming out there from the heart. They're not going in there meeting people. If you want voters, I don't see Kamala Harris and her posse going out there to the rural areas that vote red, talking to those people. She's going to all the areas that are blue. Now, going back to the rap songs, Kamala Harris had the nerve enough to say, well, Tupac was out in the 80s. No. Tupac didn't come out with his first record until 1992. And I guarantee Kamala Harris couldn't name any Tupac songs. I mean, I can name 3 right off the head. Dear Mary. I can name another one, excuse me. I can name another. Dear Mama, excuse me. Dear Mama. And another one out. Hold your head up. Hold your head up. And then Tears and Years. That's a number. That's a number of Tupac. And Heaven's Got a Ghetto. So name a few. But Tupac didn't come out until the 90s. So she's talking about, and then listening to rap songs. See, when you try to play one side, you better know something about our community. And talking about, oh, I can make a mean pot of collard greens. No, you can't. Because when you put your collard greens in the tub after people done had their feet in that tub. Because that tub isn't perfectly clean. The tub is still riddled with chemicals, could be still riddled with dirt, could be it's riddled with Ajax. You got to clean that tub out real good. No, you put your greens in a sink, in the kitchen sink. Then you cut the stems off. Then you cook them, season them up. Talking about I can make a mean pot of collard greens. She probably can't even spell the word curry. And this is what the Democrats do. And not all of them, but these Democratic politicians. They are running on trying to appease everybody. In the real world, you can't appease everybody. Not going to get everything you want. You can get some of what you want if you know how to negotiate. And I'm just talking to you from the real world. But again, going back to the polls are a bit deceptive. You have to look at the methodology when you deal with the polls. You have to look at who are they sampling. Some people may be oversampled, some may not. The methodology is going to tell you everything about that poll. And then you have to look at the sample size. A lot of these polls out here have a bias to them, especially if they're from MSNBC, CBS, ABC. When I go on and look at information from the alphabet channels and from the cable channels, I see nothing but bias. These media outlets are for Kamala Harris. You have a lot of people out there getting paid. I know. But it's people like me. I'm just going to continue to tell you that if you don't pay attention to what's going on, we're going to end up the same way we are today after 4 years or the next 4 years. And also, you have to vote for your local elections as well. I'm going to keep putting that out there as well. You have to keep voting for Congress. Because guess what? President can't do anything without Congress. Congress is the one that really, think about it, Congress is the one, plus the appointed officials, they're the ones that are running the country. Because it's the president, yes, he can utilize or she can utilize executive orders, but it's that legislative branch that creates all of the bills. The president can sign off on a bill. The president can also veto a bill. But if you have 2/3 of the House and Senate that are Republican or even Democrat, they can override that veto. And guess what? That bill becomes law anyway. You can't ratify anything on the Constitution without Congress. You can't go to war without Congress. The president is a figurehead. The president is someone who's basically a PR person. You think about it. Blair, who was in England, Margaret Thatcher. These were people that were all figureheads. The vice president. The vice president basically doesn't do anything except break ties in the Senate because the president, the vice president is the president of the Senate. That's right. People don't understand that. And I'm trying to tell you how government works. But I'm going to tell you this again. There'll be a lot of plagiarism taking place. And what Trump needs to do, he needs to get out there. He needs to get, J.D. Vance should have had a counter rally yesterday in Las Vegas. He needs to go out there just like they did up in Detroit. He needs to go out there to set the record straight himself. And then all this bull crap about military records. Okay. I'm going to say this. I served in active duty and I served in the reserves. Now, let me tell you something. In the National Guard, can you be called a veteran? Yes, you can. What is the National Guard? The National Guard is basically an auxiliary of the Air Force and the Army. The National Guard has dual functions. Each state has a National Guard, but the National Guard can be called to federal duty as well. Now, how do you become a veteran of the National Guard? Very simple. For the most part, two ways. The National Guard, you have to be active duty. Can you be active duty on the National Guard or the reserves? Yes, you can. It's called AGR. AGR stands for Active Guard and Reserves. You're a reservist, but you're working time. You can have the same thing in the National Guard. Now, how do you become a veteran if you're going 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year? Very simple. You have to do at least 180 days of active duty to become a veteran. That means you get to use the same facilities I use at the VA. Now, I'm not knocking Tim for his Tim Tim Waltz, Napoleon Tim. Not knocking him for what he did. Yeah, okay. Did he go out on his unit like that? Well, I have to also look at when did he process his paperwork? Because sometimes when you are retiring, you might have to process your paperwork or put in your paperwork a year, 6 months ahead of time. I believe the only question that is bothering people is the E9. Now, in the Army, you have three E9s. Okay, you have a regular E9, which is just like I was in the Navy, so it's just like a Master Chief. Well, in the military, period. Well, let's go to the Army. You have an E9. An E9 is a sergeant major. Got it's the highest enlisted member of all the troops, field troops. Then you have one that's in support. That's known as your command sergeant major. And then you have the sergeant major of the Army. Now, for the National Guard, what he was trying to do, he was trying to use the fact that it was an E9. Now, in the Army, I know you have to do A knock, B knock, but I believe in sergeant majors, if you're in school for it, because the Army, you have to go to school for a lot of leadership. So you have to do at least 2 years in sergeant major school and then do some other activities. I'm just getting what I know from the Army, because in the Navy, it's a little different. I was in the Navy because in the Navy, the highest rank in the enlisted ranks is Master Chief, which is an E9. Then you have your Command Master Chief. Then you have your Master Chief of the Navy. They're E9s, but they serve as different functions. Because the E9, the Master Chief, with all the sailors, he is or she is the highest ranking enlisted sailor. And that's the E9 that deals with all of the enlisted guys. Now, the one that's support for the command for all the enlisted, that's the Command Master Chief. And then you have the Master Chief of the Navy. And I'm sure you have the same thing for the Marines. You have the same thing for the Coast Guard. And you have the same thing for the Air Force. The problem is Napoleon Waltz went out there and said he was an E9, in which he wasn't. What happened is when he got out, see you, he could have been an E9 if he got paid for it. That's what nobody is saying. You're only that next rank when you're paid for it. Like, let's say if I make E5 and I'm getting ready to get out. Well, if I get paid a month before I get out, then I'm an E5. If I'm just frocked, I'm not. I'm just frocked. I'm not an E5 yet because I'm not getting paid for it. Now, in the National Guard, what you have to do, if you really want to check people's records out, well, the state where you're from has your records. So whether you're in Maryland, whether you're in Indiana, whether you're in Ohio, you can find out where your paperwork is. If you have your adjutant general, the top person in the National Guard, that's your state adjutant general. People aren't telling you this. Now, your rank when you get out, whether you retire or whether you don't re-enlist, is on your NGB 22. Now, if you're not familiar what an NGB 22 is, NGB 22 is equivalent to a DD 214. That is your discharge papers. Now, something else you need to understand about the discharge papers too, whether you retire, whether you don't retire, you got to look at your code. Like if it's an RER1, did you get out honorably? Did you get out dishonorably? Did you get out on a general discharge? These are things that people, because I was in the military, I served 17 years in the military, and 13 of it was reserves. But I got DD 214s. But I did 4 years of active duty, which automatically made me a veteran because I'd passed 180 days. And I'm just giving you this information because, you know, they're actually J.D. Vance and Napoleon Tim are going back and forth because Napoleon Tim is saying now J.D. Vance didn't go to combat. Well, he was active duty in the Marines. And he could have gone to Afghanistan where there is combat, but he did not have to go in the combat. But he was there. That's the difference. You could go to Afghanistan and work in a chow hall in the military. You're still in the combat zone. Although you don't have to go out there, you could still get hit, whether you're the cook, whether you're the engineer. This is what's not being told. And see, the media is making this guy out to be the media darling because he used the word weird. But this guy is weird. I mean, any American who believes in socialism and communism, that's weird to me. Any American who believes, and this is the funny thing about it, another thing. And this is I'm telling you what Kamala's doing. She's bringing out the old talking points, the Democratic talking points, tax cuts for the rich, tax cuts for the rich. Well, it's funny because a number of Democrats make a lot of money. Bernie Sanders made a lot of money. He had 3 to 5 houses. She makes a lot of money. Heck, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez makes a lot of money, and she was a bartender. But what's happening is, you ask them, well, okay, would you like to have 70 to 80 to 90% of your money taken from you that you earn, regardless of how you earned it? See if they would answer that question. And with guns, would you want somebody to walk in your house and you don't have a gun and take what you worked hard for and then kill you after that? No. See, the criminals don't care about the law. That's why they're called outlaws. and border security. And for the African American people, do you want migrants coming over, living better than you're living? I mean, these migrants are getting free health care. I should say all Americans, regardless of what race. They're getting free health care. They get basically a stipend, whether it's EBT or cash. They'll go in there and have a whole cart full of stuff, while we have a minimal cart and we're paying more money. Now, Minnesota and his states, or his state, they all get licenses. Now, do you want that as an American? You think about what's being said here. Do you want high interest rates? Do you want to pay a lot of money for owning a house, renting an apartment? You want to pay a lot of money for gas? $20 minimum wage. Let me tell you what the minimum wage is going to do. Yeah, you can pay somebody minimum wage, but guess what? Still not going to be enough, because businesses, they're not going to work you 40 hours. They're going to work you 5 to 10 hours. So guess what? You're still making $200 a week. So you're shortchanging yourself $20 minimum wage. Now, there are some cities right now, really the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, but nobody's paying $7.25 an hour. And a number of these jobs that individuals want minimum wage for are for the hospitality jobs and for the retail jobs that you don't need a lot of skill. Now, I realize everybody can't go to college. Everybody doesn't have the skill to work with their hands by being a mechanic. Bottom line, you have to think of money. Economies run on money. And like I said, Kamala Harris, she's running, she doesn't have any policies, so she's going to try to utilize Donald Trump's ideas. You know, a while ago, Kamala Harris, and the bad thing about it is, where Kamala Harris is making a mistake is, we all have videos of what she said before. And what's going to happen on the campaign trail, politicians say one thing, but when they get in office, they do something totally different. And many of us Americans, we're not checking our politicians. We're letting them dictate to us what they want to do. No, it's our job to dictate to them, whether you're voting Democrat or Republican. Bottom line is, we have to hold their feet to the fire. So part of what's going on is our fault. But I got to repeat this to you again before I shut it down. The polls are all fake except for Rasmussen. A lot of these individuals, look at the sample size, look at the methodology, and then look at who they oversample. And something else you need to know, Project 2025. Trump did not endorse Project 2025. That was written by a private company called the Heritage Foundation. They wrote it. Project 2025 is more propaganda. Again, Trump does not endorse Project 2025. So what's happening is, Kamala Harris wants to deceive people into believing that Trump is for Project 2025. And if you go on Kamala Harris's website, there's nothing up there about policy or anything. So she's up there just talking. This woman doesn't want to debate. She'll get creamed in a debate, especially if she has to go over to Fox. And to me, if you're going to be president of the United States, just like Trump is doing, you should be taking questions. You should be talking naturally. No use of a teleprompter. Yes, you can use notes as placeholders when you're giving speeches, but you should not let that teleprompter be the dictator of what you're saying, because what's on a teleprompter is not true. And the polls, I'm just going to say this, the way to clear everything up with voting, get rid of all of the machines. Virginia's done it. Go back to paper ballots and go back to this. You can have early voting, get rid of mail-in voting. Have early voting where everybody's got to go to the polls. Now, the only time you can mail in a vote, not vote, but vote, is if you're in the military. And you have to send an absentee ballot in. But outside of that, bottom line, you got to get your ass down to the poll, stand in line, and vote. And it's got to be paper ballots. Now, what you're going to look at on the ballot, and a lot of people really don't look at the ballot. You have to understand that on that ballot, it's going to have president, vice president, Senate, Congress, local elections, ballot initiatives. People don't read that whole ballot. You have to read the whole ballot. And when you put people in office, and I'm going to repeat this over and over and over and over again, you have to vet people. You have to look at their voting record. I don't care what anybody says, your past, yes, you can change, but what you did in your past can come back to haunt you. And what Kamala Harris did as Attorney General, nobody wants to bring that out. The liberals, they don't want to bring that out. I don't even see Napoleon Waltz and Kamala Harris going on the media that's protecting them. And see, they're going to try to play everything safe like they did Biden. They're going to try to build her up, make her out to be this. She's a fake candidate. She's fake. She's going to try to appeal to everybody, and she's not. And more informed voters like myself already know it. She's going to appeal to the less informed voters. I mean, there's a stark contrast to what people are voting for. I hear a number of these women, particularly liberal women, talk. What are they voting on? Women's right to choose. You know why? Because they've been told that. And like I said, they don't have kids, some of them. And they're talking about women's right to choose. You don't even need that issue if you choose not to have kids. Protect yourself, men and women, so you don't have kids. You don't need that issue. That's a mute issue. The states, again, already have the abortions. It's dictated to the states. And then you got to look at how much money is going into these campaigns as well. A lot of donors, a lot of corporate donors. And with all this money going out, well, if their candidate, because I believe that she's a sacrificial lamb, because the media is making it look like she can win, but she doesn't engage with people like Trump does and like Vance. Taking questions is very important because I want to see where you are. And not just taking questions, but every place they go, they're going to be asked the same question. And you have to give them the same answer because that means you're consistent. Now, Trump doesn't know all of the issues out there, but he knows the ones that we're voting on, like the economy, because it is very, very, very important. But what I'm trying to get to you all is this: you got to be informed. You can't vote just because somebody is black, just because somebody is a woman, just because somebody's telling you something you want to hear. Usually, if you're influenced by the celebrities and the media, you didn't do your own homework. I bet all the people I'm voting for, all of them. It's even for governor. And so before you even get out, and I know Brother Chaotic Truth talks about people getting out in the community. First of all, before you get them out in the community, you got to educate them on how to vote. That's what you got to do. You got to teach them the system. And I'm teaching you the system, how it works, from my YouTube videos. And yes, this is going to go up on Rumble as well. I want you to understand what's going on here. You're being deceived. Kamala Harris, she's plagiarizing. She's copying Trump's policies. They're not her ideas. I believe Trump will bring that up. He will also have to bring that up in the debate. They're his ideas. She doesn't have any ideas. Trump sat there, and I have to give him respect, for an hour and a half, and gave a good Q&A, question and answer session. J.D. Vance. I mean, to me, that's engaging people, not engaging to people who are being bussed in because you pay for them to come in to make it look like you're filling up your establishment, because you're not. I mean, Trump is drawing a lot of people, and he's going back to Pennsylvania, and he was almost assassinated. It's what people are not telling. And see, the candidates know what's really going on with the polls because they have internal polls. They know what the numbers are. I'm just telling you, regardless if you vote left or right, Kamala Harris is a flawed candidate. She cannot answer questions, because I know if I'm debating with her, I'm going to ask her, okay, prove to me that you're not the board czar. Did you look at HR 253? You didn't look at it, did you? It says you're the board czar. It says it right here. You've been appointed the board czar. I believe that came out March of 2021. When you go to these cities, like Tampon Tim, he was out there when his cities burned down. But Kamala Harris was the one that had no cash bail for these criminals. They were allowed to go and burn other cities. Nothing happened to them. That was on her watch too. She did that. And in politics, it's a dirty game. What you do has an effect. For the most part, I'm just going to say this. I'm giving you the information out here. And I look at everything, giving everybody their shouts. But the bottom line is this. You have to ask yourself this question. And whatever I don't get in this video, I'll pick up on another video. But before I go, let me explain the Electoral College to you too. The Electoral College is made up of, because each state is made up so each state can get some representation in the process, so the states with the highest populations don't control who's the president. So I live in Indiana, and here's how the college is made up. Made up based on the 2 senators that you have and the amount of Congress, House members you have. Like, okay, here in Indiana, we have 11 electoral college votes. That comes from 2 senators and 9 congresspeople. Now, you have electors that, when all the votes are counted, the votes are then certified by the secretary. They're given to the electors. I believe they're given to the electors. The electors They put a yes, because the electors can turn it down. They can say, well, I don't want this vote. I'll vote for the other part. They can do that. They go to the elect because you have different electors. Then once everything gets to them, your votes go to the Secretary of the State. They certify them, and then the Secretary of the State, they pass them on to the Senate or the Congress, who's ever going to use these votes. That's how the process works. You need 270 electoral college votes to win. 270. Now, what if it's tied? If it's tied, then it goes back to the Senate, Congress, and they'll select the president. Now, again, the electorate is made up of 538 possible electoral college votes that you can get. That's where that number comes from. You have 100. Mentioned it in my last video. I'll mention it again. Told you have 100 senators, 438 House members. But again, when you're going to go vote, you have to not just vote for the president, the vice president. You're going to have to vote on your ballot initiatives. You're going to have to vote on your gubernatorial races. Some may have mayoral races, city council races, county council races. Elections are important, and you have to get involved. Like here in Tippecanoe County. I live in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Lafayette, and I know coming up, they're going to have some type of town hall. You know, now I know some people say you got to go knock on doors. It's not a good thing today to knock on doors. The best thing to do is just get out there and probably put up a podcast and you explain to people. You have to educate people. You don't tell them who to vote for. You educate them on the voting process. Then they will become more informed and they won't vote based on their feelings, or I don't like the other guy, the gender, or I want to see the first black or the first woman, or I'm voting for abortion. You want them to vote on issues that are going to benefit you. Abortion doesn't benefit me, so I won't vote for it. I don't care about it. I care about the economy. I care about border safety. I care about taxes. My tax is going to be going up. I care about gas prices. I want to drive a gas-powered car. I want to be able to think for myself. And again, Black people, don't let these old Gen Xers who were my age, these baby boomer men and women, and these silent generation people, because these individuals, they're not innovative. They're used to watching TV. Many of them, they were comfortable going to work. They were comfortable at church. And a number of them were receiving handouts from the government. And they never had any initiative. That's why they're in a position that they're in. And when you ask them about a business, they're going to think you're the weird one. No, these individuals are on a plantation and they will always be on a plantation. And they will always say the Republicans are racist, when back in the days, most Black people were Republicans. And you remember something, it was the Republicans who helped initiate the Civil Rights Act of 65. In fact, when Lyndon B. Johnson was a congressman back in the day, in 57, when Dwight D. Eisenhower was president, they wanted to pass the Civil Rights Act in. He didn't want it. He didn't want it at all. And you look what happened to him when he was president. He had to resign because of the Vietnam War. History tells a lot of things. And you can equate it to what's happening now. Look at the economy. Are you better today than you were 4 years ago? You have to ask yourself that question. And as I conclude, I'm just going to ask you this question. What kind of country do you want? you want a country that you can thrive in, or do you want a country that's going to be an oppressive country? You ask yourself that. Because for the uninformed voters out there, because they want to see it first, they're voting on gender, they're voting on fluffy stuff. They don't care about this country until something happens to them. Bottom line, become informed and don't be influenced by ignorant voters, because ignorance is bliss. Be smart. It's your future. It's your choice. If you want socialism, communism, vote for Harris. If you want free market, you want a little bit more of your liberties, vote for Trump. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I will tell you this. Are you all looking at your pockets today? If you look at your pockets today and you're poor now, you look at it in the future. Economies tell everything. But you got to vote outside your feelings. You gotta vote outside because you don't like the other guy, because you've been told by the media that the other guy is racist. When in essence, the racist people are the ones who are telling you that the other guy's racist. The weird people are the ones who are calling everybody else weird. Usually that's what happens. And you know why they're doing all this? You know why Kamala Harris is now starting to utilize Trump's talking points? And while Tim Walz is calling everybody weird, I will tell you, because they have nothing to run on. It's all smoke and mirrors. And that smoke and mirrors is going to work on some of you, but not a lot of us. But when you have nothing to run on, what do? You seek desperation. Because really, you're not about the people. You're about staying in power. In order to get these socialists and communists out of power, we got to be informed. And being informed is utilizing common sense. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, check out the QCIS channel. On that channel, I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And once I record all of my videos, post them up on my Twitter page. I also will be posting this video on my Rumble page. And of course, I have a Truth Social account. So want to get your message out there, get more platforms. If you are on the Donald Trump side of the house. Now, moving forward, the QCIS channel, since it's an educational channel, I also post videos from the QCIS to my LinkedIn page. And in the end, be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. For you haters out there, call people like me a coon, but you're the real coons. I'm just going to say this to you. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, then change it. Once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the One Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. You all have a wonderful and gracious day. God bless you. I'm out.